like myself, like Deviant Null, who want, don't want this to be completely a video game, want to give the DM an opportunity to get in there, or the player an opportunity to get in there and sign off on anything before the computer automatically decides it and does something that is difficult to reverse.
And I'll say for me, and I call myself an evangelist sometimes, which is how I got the Bard job. But for me, MapTool and Savage Worlds gave me back my gaming life again. And that's one of the reasons I've dedicated myself to both those communities, both the Savage Worlds and the MapTool community. And because of this, and one of the main reasons I created the framework was I can bring in people that don't know Savage Worlds, and same thing like with Deviant Null's framework, I'm sure, is that you can bring people in that don't know the game system, but can play and have a good time, because what the macros do is limit your options, right? It's like you don't have to know how to attack. The macros are going to take you through those steps to attack something. You just go through and the DM tells you, okay, click this and this, and you do that twice, and then that player knows how to play the game. And to me, that's one of the true strengths of MapTool and other virtual tabletops as well, is that the learning curve to bring new players into the game is much lower than it would be if you just threw a rule book at them. And also, since you've coded the rules potentially inside the framework, their need to own the supplements is less as well, so it's a little cheaper alternative for them coming into a new game.
One question from the chat was asking if you could add a tiny bit of changeable text to a character's token, like stuck to ceiling or phased, and I was just demonstrating the various states that we have, and you can create your own states. You can assign your own images to them. So yes, if you want stuck to ceiling, you can create a state for that. Put a little token of Spidey on the ceiling. MapTool allows you to do pretty much anything you want to do in that regard.
And the states are very powerful. Now there's another option you can do as well as that, and I don't know if you can show it in your chat window, but there's something called a mini stat sheet that comes up when you click on a token that you own. As far as the campaign properties that you set up, you can say which stats on that token actually show up when you click on the token. And so if you wanted to add a little note to your token, you could do it that way as well if you wanted to. But I'll say that the vast majority of people use states for things like clinging to ceiling or prone or running, or whatever you want to do. States are very powerful, and as you said, you can customize those images to your heart's content to make them work.
So right here you can see the little stat sheet for this et, and it's displaying the health, AC, defenses, and the speed. But as Keith was saying, you can have additional factors, and something I included, and this was purely thanks to the MapTool community, because I tried and couldn't figure it out for the life of me. And this is something because I've been playing D&D so long, I tend to forget or lose track of specifics about characters, like what kind of armor they're wearing or what kind of weapon they're holding, and looking it up every single time was sort of a laborious process. So we managed to get a way to have the equipped weapon and equipped armor show up on this little stat sheet, and it's made my life so much easier. I'm incredibly happy with the result, and again, all thanks to the very helpful community. They're asking, can you do vision blocking a VBL layer diagonally? Yeah, you can draw lines in any direction, and there's something of circular support. What is it? It's not exactly a circle, but how many sides does that figure have?
Well, it's an oval. You can do an oval. You can do freestyle lines. You can do closed polygons. You can do filled as well. If you think about drawing a line in any other program, you can do it typically in MapTool as well. And the circles are very popular, but oddly enough, they're not as efficient as straight lines, and it's because of the computation that has to go in under the covers. So you'll see the columns there use circles for vision blocking layer, and that looks the coolest. And if you don't have a large map, that's the best way to go. But for larger maps that have a lot of vision blocking, sometimes folks will just put an X on those things. And that actually, the X's let people see almost the entirety of the column as they move around it, but still do the same thing as the circles. But yeah, it can be diagonal, it can be square, it can be oval, or it can be a free polygon.
That's a great point about the X's, especially with trees, because you just sort of plop a big thing on the trunk, a big circle on the trunk, and you can't really make out what is that? Is that a tree? But you put it in the X, so what it is just two lines crisscrossing at some angle, and yeah, as Keith said, you can actually see the object.
Correct, and that works out pretty well. The other thing to remember is VBO. I mean, for MapTool to calculate that site is a fairly hefty computation, and so if you have an entire forest full of trees with VBL attached, A, you've taken a long time to do that, but B, it's going to eat up a lot of computational time for your clients. And one of the things we hope to add in the future is for when you drop an object or a tile onto MapTool that we include the VBL with it. So you can indeed populate an entire forest with attached VBL. That's not there yet. And so what a lot of people do they'll do it for the big trees, but not the smaller ones. And they might do it for only a small section of the forest, and then do vision blocking layer to keep you from seeing the rest of the forest, and then erase that as you move forward.
Now earlier you were mentioning when it comes to drawing objects or placing objects, you mentioned something about being able to sort of copy paste things in order to quickly populate, say, a forest. I actually think I'm not familiar with that. Could you maybe demo that for us?
You bet. Let's see. Let me do a quick and find my treetops in my image repository here. If you can bring up, take everybody to a grasslands. Okay, there we are. All right, so I'm going to drop a few trees on here. Actually, not quite that. And I'm going to drop them back on the object layer. Is that tree appearing to y'all up there?
Could you point on the map where it is? Oh, that's another feature of MapTool. You can point, hold down spacebar, or you can make thought bubbles and speech bubbles. Yeah, I see the tree now.
Let's see, make sure this guy's viewable. You see it? Okay, great. All right, so the nice thing about MapTool is this in memory, this is getting down to the geeky bit, but in memory, this thing is only located once. That image is only there once. And so I'm going to Control-C and Control-V it around a bit. Now the nice thing about it's a little bit of an optical illusion, but you can resize this down and then you can rotate it. And if you hit Control Shift, it's going to stick to its aspect ratio. And then you can only fractionally move that guy. And I chose a Boab tree, which isn't the best because it's got a distinctive plume. But some of these other guys actually work better. And if you're going to create a quick forest, choose 5 of these types of trees is my recommendation. You shrink it, make some bigger, make some smaller, and then rotate them a little bit. And when you do that, and one of the cool things, and Dorpon did this once to me. He he showed you how you could rotate a bunch of things at once, and he actually had a bunch of zombies dancing out there, which was, you know, creepy and fun at the same time. But if you do this and you rotate those things, and you have about 4 sets of trees out there of different sizes like this, and MapTool, that's very memory efficient, but you can populate an entire forest this way, and using the rotation bit, the player's eyes won't fixate on the fact that that's the same image. And so if you do that enough, you can populate a forest. And then once you do that, let's say we do this kind of thing, and I've zoomed out a little bit. And then you take that entire image, and you select all those tokens. You move the map over a little bit, and I'm moving to the left a bit. And then you just do the Control V thing, all right? And so that entire set of trees shows up over and over again. And so that's a quick way to make a forest. I don't know if you need to zoom out to see that or not.
Fantastic, look at that. I wasn't aware actually that pasting the same object over and over and rotating used no additional resources.
It's an awesome trick, and your maps are going to load super fast when you do that. Now the next trick I'm going to show you is how to make a quick road if I can find my my textures and do them correctly, because I always get confused about which is which as far as the border and the outline. But in the drawing tool, you can set the thickness of the brush and the thickness of the outline around it. And so if I set my thickness up fairly high, I can go to the drawing tool and I can say I'm going to draw a freehand line. And if I did this correctly, I'm drawing a road through the forest. Whoops, not quite right. Still not quite right. Still not quite there. I got them reversed, I'm sorry. So, and this is where the textures come in handy. Need to make it wider. Sorry, it's been a little while since I've done this. But that's how you draw roads through a forest quickly. And I'm not quite doing it right. You actually want to use the polygon on that one. Still not quite right. And so by adjusting that width of that image, you're able to get a nice road texture going. And you can wind that thing through the forest and it works really, really well. And that's all under the drawing tools.
So we've got another question from the chat asking about animated GIFs, GIF image files. Is it possible to include those? And I'll add to that. If not, might we see that in the future?
Yes, that's definitely planned for the future. It's not there yet. We want to have animated GIFs on the map. We've had some people that did that in interesting ways, where they had multiple items on the object layer that were hidden, and they would reveal them, make them visible to players over time. And so the players, it looked as though it was animated, but it really wasn't. But in the future, we plan to have GIFs out there. There's some interesting technical issues behind that, because GIFs have very specific needs as far as a display window and the refresh rate, because you have to worry about the refresh rate of the entire map. We're more likely to include that under, on your mini stat sheet where it has the portrait on there, including a GIF in there before we do the the GIF on the entire map.
So do we have any further questions or anything else you'd like to see demoed in MapTool? Or Keith, do you have anything you'd like to show? Any other feature we haven't gone over yet?
Oh, think about MapTool. There's lots and lots. You know, you've got things like the template tool for drawing fireballs. You've got you know, things like the like fog of war for drawing fog of war, so that your players can't see in a given area. You've got my goodness, a whole set of drawing tools available to you. There's a whole set of community provided art that is free for you to use in your games. That's absolutely outstanding, mostly by Devin Knight and John Robertson that we talked, but there's lots and lots more. You know, the function of MapTool grows continually based on who's got time to code it. So there's just tons of stuff. And to be honest with you, it would take an 8-hour podcast probably to go over all of it.
Yeah, that template tool, really handy, I think, for it was 3.5 D&D that would use those odd shapes for various spell effects, right? Right.
Yeah, I mean, you've got the cone template tool, and you're able to adjust the opacity and the texture inside. It's awesome.
Other things you can do with light sources, you can have colored light sources, you can even have auras, some that are visible to the GM only, which is helpful, especially in 3rd edition, where certain monsters will have auras, and rather than always remember, it's really handy to have this visual representation of this aura around the monster to see if the players are standing in it, and the players can't see it, so they're not tipped off right away.
I use auras a great deal in Savage Worlds because, you know, MapTool, even though it says it's system agnostic, it's still got, you know, the largest community in there is the D&D community, so it's still very D&D based. But I use auras for the MapTool area effect stuff, and it works very, very well. You can attach an aura to a grenade, or a marker token is what it comes out to be, and then tell the person to put that grenade wherever they plan on throwing it. Roll your roll, and if it misses, you roll any deviation on there, and then activate the aura on that grenade, and they see what they hit. So that's one of those things that's actually better, I think, than a face-to-face tabletop thing where you know, because in it they metagame, right? Players metagame. They say, okay, I want to hit, you know, if I place the grenade right here, I'm going to hit 3 orcs, so I'm going to hit it here. So, but with that marker concept, you know, you have them place the marker wherever they want. They don't, you know, they think they may know how big that aura is around it, but it's not there until the DM makes it active, and then the DM tells them how many people it actually hit.
Clever. We have a question asking, what is the best way to put in a zone that isn't going to last? And I think the templates would be it, because you can very easily erase them, right?
Yeah, correct. You can take those out. You can also, players can draw on the map themselves, by the way, and sometimes that actually gets a little irritating. But players have full access to the drawing tools, so they're able to come in and say, you know, I want something, you know, here, and they can get it. So, but that's always possible as well.
Then there's a question about private messaging individual players. That's a very simple command. Is it slash or \W? I always get those two mixed up. Space and then the name of the connected
Slash.
player.
Yeah, it's slash. Mm-hmm. You can also do a /GM, and that message is only going to go to the DM or the GM.
Can you pass or send an image or PDF secretly to a PC in-game through MapTool?
What you can do, what I've done in the past, is I have a web server that I have available to me, and you can pass them a link to it, and they can click on that link, and from MapTool it'll bring up a browser and show them the image or the PDF, either one.
And I think some tokens, what is it? You right-click on them, and then there's some way to show a pop-up image. Is that right? If you here, let's bring up a token to see.
Yeah, if you on your tokens, if you let's see, do we have any here? If you double-click on one of your tokens and go to that last tab again, under the config tab. I'm sorry, it's not config tab. It is. By golly, it is config. Okay. You can drag a special portrait image into the box labeled portrait. You can also have a handout image as well, which you can access through the handout command. And a lot of people in the beginning days, the reason the handout was there, so you could put character sheets, a PDF character sheet in there, an image of it in there, and you could right-click on the image and get the handout. But when you mouse over, you can get an image of that portrait, and that turns out to be really, really handy. If you don't give it a portrait, then it defaults to the token image when you mouse over.
Yeah, what I'd actually used that handout for was I wrote a letter once. In Photoshop, I made a letter that was written to the PCs or what have you, and I think I put an image of on MapTool. I had a token of a closed envelope, and then when you'd right click on it and select Show Handout, it would then show the actual letter within the envelope. It was a cute little thing.
And what it is, the other thing that I was almost going to show earlier, under the default map packs available for MapTool, is that once again under Jonathan Roberts stuff, under Torsten's map pack, there are scrolls and numbers, and if you lay those down on the object layer, and if the GM puts information in, once again, if you double click on a token, on that first tab under Notes, there's a Notes section. Well, whatever you type in there, when you click on that thing on the object layer, it's going to show up to the PCs along with whatever portrait image you have in there. And I use that sometimes. I'll put markers in front of caves. I'll go out to the net and find a cool image of a cave and describe the cave in the Notes section of that thing to the players. So when they come up, they see an information marker, and they click on it, they get an image of what's there, what their player would see, as well as some descriptive text of what they're seeing. And I use that quite a bit in dungeons. I'll go ahead and put room numbers in the various dungeon rooms so that as characters go in and explore it, they click on that scroll marker that I put on there. They can't see the number. I have that on the GM layer, but they can see the scroll, which is in the object layer. And when they click on the scroll, they're able to see a description of the room, and that cuts down on my time as a GM having to describe to them what's in a room, because obviously most of the time if you get your adventures in PDF format, you can just cut and paste that descriptive text right into that note section and save yourself a lot of time describing the room to the players.
We had another question asking, so could I create a token of Dr. Doom using a simple image, then have a second more elaborate image that would be visible to players that would mouse over his token? And absolutely, that's what I'm showing right here. the mouse over image, you see it in the bottom left. Right now it's just it's a 0, just because I don't want to use any copyrighted images. But yes, you can make it be a lovely character art or anything really, and you can determine the size of that rollover in your MapTool settings.
I use that a lot.
One thing I really find neat is the top-down tokens. I don't make use of them simply because I feel as though if I have to use them, I have to go all the way with them, and I just don't know where to find a huge library that I'd be able to always find a token that I need.
Immortal Knights, Devon Knight's token blog is the best place for that. There's a lot of them that come default with MapTool. If you, and I forget which window it's under, but there's a place where you can download a bunch of those things. But Devon Knight has a bunch of free tokens for the virtual tabletop for just about every monster or character that you would want to use. Personally, as a GM, I use the tokens like you see for the player characters, and I use for the monsters and critters. I'll use the top-down tokens to show the characters what's out there.
Alright, well, we're going to be wrapping this up shortly, so if you have any final questions to ask, go ahead and type those in chat. In the meantime, going back to the New Moon Murders, obviously picking the name, it was Thomas Gunn, right?
Correct.
So we're all familiar with Peter Gunn,
How
right?
did I come up with that name? Correct. It became a play on words. It was 1930s. The story set in the 1930s, and you know, it was the stories take place in Chicago. You know, Mob Central there in New York, right? And I wanted an interesting name for a character, and to be honest, his original name was Mike Stone. And I came up with the concept of a character that his name was Thomas Gunn, and people called him Tommy Gunn, right? Which you would think would be a cool name for a detective, but it turns out he hates that name, you know. And that's something I play on through the entire story, is that the bad guys will typically, because he knows a lot of mobsters, because he's a private detective, they call him Tommy Gunn. And the way you know the people that are kind of the good guys versus the bad guys, visual clue I'll give you is his friends call him Gunny, and but the people he knows that are mob related or not so nice call him Tommy Gunn, and he refuses to use a Thompson submachine gun. If one's presented to him and there's a stick that he has to run across the room to beat somebody with, he will pick up that stick instead of use the Tommy gun because he hates that name so much. And there's another play on words. The story goes that this is an alternate dimension, or an alternate Earth, and eventually it's going to run itself into, unless I break the story off completely, but it's going to run itself into a ray guns and rocket packs scenario, which is documented. I have a blog called rptroll.blogspot.com, Tales of the Savage Troll, and it's all documented there. But and I actually started with the ray guns and rocket packs first, but he's going to have a son, and he'll continue the story at some point once I get tired of the 1930s pulp stuff, and I switch back over to the ray guns and rocket packs. And of course, his son is named Ray.
So you said this was in an alternate reality. Is there some alternate reality somewhere where we may find out that Thomas Gunn is the father of Peter Gunn?
There's that possibility, except in that universe, Earth gets destroyed in, let's see, when is it? Is it 1983? No, it's earlier than that. It's, well, I'll tell you, the story goes, and it's the universe that it's set in, and indeed the universe that our game is set in is, it's got some Cthulhian kinds of concepts in it without being copyright infringing.